Hey everybody, welcome back into Live and Learn. Hope you're all having a great week so far. Haven't spoke to you since last week, a little break from the pod, but happy to be back with you all tonight with so much to dive into from this week and just so many big stories. So many big stories that we're going to talk about tonight. Some that I can't believe, some that were quite obvious, but we're going to dive into it all. Tonight, we're also going to preview Thursday Night Football between the Rams in the Bay Area to play the San Francisco 49ers. We're also going to look at the rest of Week 15, which is one of the best weeks of the season in the NFL. The games this weekend, my God, they're fantastic. Unbelievable. We're going to talk Week 15. We will get to some NHL later in the show. The Leafs won a game they shouldn't have won on Tuesday, but that happens. Kudos to Anthony Stolarz, goaltender number one. Not that Joe Wall wanted to steal it. He doesn't want to give it away. Good on him. The rest of the team that night sucked. Jacob Markstrom won them the game in his poor play. We'll get into hockey later. The Avalanche make a complete 180 on goalies, which is impressive by Joe Sakic that he pulled it off. But you'd think, okay, haven't been on in a couple days, have so much to get back to. Let's start with baseball. No, I'm not starting with baseball today. I'm starting with a story that is so fascinating. I'm still not completely bought in that it's happening, even though he was introduced just a few hours ago. Bill Belichick, the greatest coach in NFL history, who coached the Patriots for over 20 years, 6 Super Bowls with the Patriots, 2 Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator with the New York Giants, left or was fired by the Patriots and couldn't get a job. Interviewed with the Falcons, couldn't get a job in the NFL last year. Joined the media, working with Pat McAfee, doing stuff with the NFL Network, the Manning Cast. That same Bill Belichick has signed a 5-year deal to become the new head coach of the University of North Carolina. Chapel Hill has become Chapel Bill. 26 wins away from tying Don Shula for the most wins by a head coach in NFL history. And he says no to this. And instead is going back to school, to quote Billy Madison. I can't believe it. Bill Belichick coaching 19 and 20-year-olds. Bill Belichick recruiting 19 and 20-year-olds. So, I got so many different things to talk about on this specific topic. However, the first one is that Bill in college, I can't wait to see how it goes. I'm going to use a word I don't even like I hate this word. I'm excited to see how this goes. I'm excited to see if he has success. How it goes for Bill Belichick. Can he build a good team at North Carolina? Can he get enough name, image, and likeness money to be competitive at North Carolina? Since 1983, the North Carolina Tar Heels have won one ACC championship. One. The ACC is not some tough conference. You're playing Pitt. and you're playing Syracuse, and you're playing Miami, who stunk for 15 years, but now they're finally good again. You're not playing Alabama and Ole Miss and these Georgia, these good teams. You're playing in the ACC. You're playing Duke every year, and they haven't been able to win an ACC championship. So it's a tough task, but it can be done. LSU was a nothing school until it wasn't. Alabama was a nothing school, yes, until it wasn't. Now, Nick Saban had his imprint on both of those universities. LSU winning a national championship, changing that legacy, making it a destination for future coaches like Ed Orgeron, like Brian Kelly, to leave the cult, Notre Dame. So it can be done, but can he do it? And what's happening now in college, and this is interesting as well, head coaches are hiring general managers. Because we've known this forever. College football is a professional sport. It's as professional a sport as the NBA, as the NHL, because it makes more money than those sports. And they pay less to their athletes. So college football is such a great moneymaker. Now they're paying players now. Sure. But they're still making hand over fist money. There's no salary cap. You can do whatever the hell you want. So Bill Belichick brings with him his good friend, the guy who worked with him in New England, Mike Lombardi. Mike Lombardi is more known for his work in the media, and he's fantastic. The GM Shuffle podcast, really good. Mike Lombardi is a guy who shoots from the hip, not afraid to share his opinion. Remind you of anybody? He is himself. And he's not afraid to, and I love that about him. And he's going with Bill Belichick to Chapel Hill to be his GM. Basically, to oversee name, image, and likeness money. And in essence, some of the recruitment. Because I don't think Bill Belichick is going to be on the trail going to home after home with recruitment. I don't think he's doing that because I don't think Deion Sanders has been doing that in Boulder, Colorado. But you hire enough good people who are good at recruiting and you have money that you're going to give to these kids to come to your school, and it works. Bill Belichick had a tough end to his career in New England. Brady hated him at the end. Robert Kraft hated him at the end. He's really hurt that franchise with his bad drafts. And that team is so devoid of talent still. They're one of the worst rosters in the NFL. They have been for a number of years. But I do think college is different because a great college player doesn't mean he's going to be a great player in the NFL. But normally in college, skill wins. You get the best players, you're going to be in a better position to succeed, period. And we know Bill can build a team and build a culture because he did it forever. Patriots way, that cult, he built that in New England. And Gronk and Brady and Edelman, Amendola still live and die by the sword, still live and die by that premise. So it's fascinating. Bill Belichick and Mike Lombardi and Freddie Kitchens, who used to coach the Cleveland Browns, if you might remember him, he's on Bill Belichick's staff at North Carolina. I would expect to see Josh McDaniels pop up at some point who was always Belichick's offensive coordinator in the NFL. They had a ton of success together. I've seen on Twitter reports of recruits who had entered the transfer portal are now exiting the transfer portal because Bill Belichick's the head coach. He's made North Carolina relevant, and nobody was doing that. Nobody. North Carolina went from a 73-year-old head coach in Mac Brown to a 72-year-old head coach in Bill Belichick. His dad was an assistant coach with North Carolina way back when. So there's family roots at Chapel Hill. I think it would be fascinating to go, I got coached by the greatest coach ever. If you're a college kid. I think if you're a parent, you can go, oh my God, my son's going to get coached by Bill Belichick? That's a possibility? He's going to get my kid to the NFL. That could be all hogwash. But it's going to happen. It's going to be a thought. I mean, whether subconscious or whatever it might be. I know growing up, any parent, you go, oh, I can go to this camp, this hockey camp, and it's run by Noah Warren. Nice, decent guy. Doesn't really like people that much, but really likes the sport. Probably work with my kids well enough. On the other camps run by Wayne Gretzky. I wonder where they're going to go. It's just obvious. They're going to go to Wayne Gretzky's. Whether Gretz, who wasn't a good coach, but he's the great one. And go, okay, well, Wayne Gretzky's going to teach my kid. It can be more of a, hey, Steve, my son went to Wayne Gretzky's hockey camp. Part of it. He got a 5-year deal as well. I thought it was 3. It was reported 3 yesterday. No, it was confirmed 5 today. He said he doesn't want to leave. Said, I didn't sign here just to leave it right away. Also said in his press conference, coaching's a lot funner than working. To me, he's just a coach. That's what he's meant to be. That's what he's meant to do. Now, why not try to go back to the NFL to break Don Shula's record? It's a fair question. I don't think the NFL wanted Bill Belichick. I don't think it was Bill Belichick not wanting the NFL. Seth Wickersham, who's a good writer, I've read many of his books. He's got a book called Belichick. Good read. He's a guy Belichick let interview. I consider him friend adjacent with Bill Belichick. And he wrote, I want to bring this up, because he wrote an article today. And I disagree with the article. That's why I want to make sure I get it right. Seth Wickersham, ESPN. So this is the title. A big FU to the NFL. My latest inside the private Zoom conversations this fall that led Bill Belichick to a destination nobody anticipated. Now, was there collusion to not allow Bill Belichick to coach again? I don't believe that, and I'll tell you why. Because if it was going to start, it would have started with Robert Kraft doing it. Robert Kraft can't get himself voted into the Hall of Fame. He got denied for the 8th time in a row this year. If that doesn't scream, I have no influence, I don't know what will. So no, I'm not buying that Bill Belichick was controlling the situation. To me, it says he's 72. He wants to be the GM and he wants to be the head coach because it's what he was every year in New England. And he wasn't a good GM for most of his career. He was a great coach. And Belichick, the coach, overcame Belichick, the GM, a lot of times. And I think he was only going to accept it if he got both jobs. He was not going to get both jobs. So basically, to me, the NFL told Bill no. You could say, well, the Bears would have hired Bill, but I don't think the Bears would have. I think the Bears are going to hire an offensive-minded head coach. I think the Bears would love to hire Ben Johnson in the offseason, who's the OC for the Detroit Lions, because they want somebody who can coach Caleb Williams. That's my read on it. So I don't think it was Bill Belichick saying F you to the NFL. I think it was the NFL telling Bill, you're kind of done here. You're great, but we don't want you anymore. Jimmy Johnson didn't coach after a certain age. Wasn't really asked for again. It happens. It happens to coaches. Where eventually it's just no thanks. The Falcons interviewed him twice. They went with Raheem Morris. They didn't go with him. There were openings last year and they didn't go with that team. With the coach. So I think Belichick said, okay, I want to coach again. I'm not going to have full autonomy in the NFL. I will in college. I'll get to hire my own staff. I'll get to hire my own GM who I know incredibly well. I'm going to be in control of all the money. NIL. I'll get to coach up these guys from basically February until the fall to build the best team. If you get sick of a kid, you can get rid of him after a year. It's not a long-term contract. Because if that kid's not playing, he's not going to stay. He's going to enter the transfer portal and go somewhere else. So I think Seth Wickersham's article is wrong, but I also think the source is a bad source because I think he's friends with Belichick. He's a journalist, Seth Wickersham. He is. Good author. I don't think this is a journalism piece. I think this is an opinion piece framed as journalism. And I just don't, this is not a piece I see. I don't see that as, I don't agree with it. Belichick could have waited. Could have waited for Jacksonville to fire Doug Peterson. For Chicago's open. The Jets are open. He was never going to go there. He hates the Jets. But there'll be more jobs. Coaches are going to get fired towards the back end of the season here. The season's over. There'll be a few more firings. 7, 8 jobs available, I would say. At the very least. He could have waited. But he took a North Carolina job on December 11th. He didn't wait for the NFL season to be over. He took a North Carolina job now. His son might be able to become the next head coach after him. Might be a succession plan. Steve Belichick coached under Bill with the Patriots, was a defensive assistant at University of Washington this past year. So he gets to help out his son in the process. I'm also wondering, is he going to be Belichick, the stern asshole that he was to New England, or is he going to have to be a little bit of a different guy to these college kids and to the media? I thought at his press conference today, he was more open than he was in 95% of his press conferences in the NFL. And maybe working with the media opened him up a little bit. Because he was good. He was very good on the Manning cast. Him and Peyton broke down plays. It was great stuff. He wasn't afraid to give his opinion. He was funny, making fun of the Jets ownership and how much of a disaster they are. I enjoyed him. But now he's coaching North Carolina in the ACC. Their over-under 2 days ago was 6.5 for next season. It is now 7.5 a day after hiring Bill Belichick. I think that number will continue to go up as we keep going here because it's hype. And it's just a gut feel going, oh, it's Belichick. He's at North Carolina. They're going to have some success. Can't wait to see what happens. The recruiting cycle, transfer portal, what kind of team he can put out there in year one. But I'll be tracking it. Guarantee you that. Let's pivot to baseball. Juan Soto has agreed to a contract. Juan Soto, who won a World Series with the Washington Nationals, who was traded a couple years later to the Padres, who was then traded a couple years later to the Yankees, helped get them to the World Series this past year, won the AL pennant, but ultimately fell to Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. To me, it was obvious. Juan Soto is not leaving New York. He's either going to the Yankees or he's going to the Mets. He was not going to the Dodgers. He was never going to the Blue Jays. That Fugazi story, that's not happening. It was Mets or Yankees. And Juan Soto and Scott Boras got a 15-year, $765 million contract with the Mets that, with incentives and with other things in that contract, can get up to $800 million. First off, hats off to Scott Boras. Scott Boras, pardon my French, fucked a lot of his free agents last offseason, Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, by promising them long-term deals and getting them absolute crap. Telling them to hold out, telling them to wait until spring training, and then it completely backfired on them. They all had to settle for one-year deals. But Blake Snell gets a 5-year deal from the Dodgers. Now, I don't think he would have gotten a 5-year deal from any other team in baseball, any, capital A-N-Y, but the Dodgers gave it to Blake Snell, bailing out Scott Boras, so he looks like a victor. 5 years, $1.82. A couple years ago, he turned down over $400 million in extension from the Nationals. He told Juan Soto, no. Just like all my other clients, we go to free agency. We don't accept the first offer. He hits 41 homers last year. Good season. He's a great hitter, great plate discipline, all these different things. But gets 15 years, $765 million. Shohei Ohtani got $700 million. But he also makes $2 million a year while he's playing because all that money is deferred. He's going to be making that when he's not playing anymore. So the Dodgers actually have a smaller payroll and they can go out and sign Blake Snells and pick up good players to add to their team. While the MVP of the National League makes $2 million. Juan Soto was not taking deferred money. Juan Soto was not doing it. Shohei Ohtani, no, this is true. He's the most marketable athlete in the world. And you might go, that's crazy. It's an NFL player. It's him because he has the Japanese market. Japan had 16 million people watching the World Series. There were 16 million people watching the World Series in the United States. Japan loves their athletes. They will watch them. They support them. Hideki Matsuyama. You look at these Asian markets, they love their players. They love their hometown boys. They will support them. They watch them. They want them to be successful. So you not only have a guy who can hit and pitch, but he is also, and he's huge, but you have the whole Japanese market behind him. He's the most marketable athlete in the world. The only other person I was going to put close to that, by the way, Mahomes be up there. Caitlin Clark is big for me right now because women like her. Women really like her. No, I'm not going to say it. Liberals really like her. So there's a lot of people on her side, which is great. By the way, I'm pro that, of course. She's a great player in the WNBA. She was great theater in college, and what she's done to spark her career, second to none. Kudos. Not easy as a female doing what she's done. Juan Soto doesn't have any marketability. None. Juan Soto could walk in a local 7-Eleven and nobody would stop him for a picture because nobody would know who he is. In New York. It's crazy, this contract. It's stupid. I think the Yankees won by not signing him. 15 years, $765 million. No way am I doing it. I'd rather lose and not sign him than win and sign because you'd be losing money when you're winning. Stevie Cohen, manager for the Mets, who promised a World Series in the first 5 years, didn't deliver on that. So you have to go out there and sign Juan Soto for crazy money. How much money are you going to spend on the rest of your team? The Mets got to NLCS last year, so you might go, we have our missing piece. Juan Soto, sure. They're still not better than the Dodgers. They're still not better than the Dodgers. Ohtani's going to pitch again. Blake Snell. Back in the rotation. Yamamoto. Tyler Glasnow. Those are all Cy Young winners. Yamamoto might win one this year. Cy Young guys. And then you go, okay, well, I really like Mark Vientos. Good at bat. Okay. I really like Brandon Nimmo in the corner outfield, despite the fact that he doesn't really hit anymore and he's overpaid. Yay. Juan Soto's 26, but he's probably going to be a DH by the time he's 30. Oh, and by the way, he's not that good of a fielder. Yay. Well, this is sounding more and more tragic by the second. He's a great player. He will help the Mets, no doubt about it. But this doesn't guarantee them a World Series. Behind me, Citi Field. This doesn't guarantee them anything. Does it get them closer? I guess. I guess. But also, you can't say that definitively. Because there's so many obstacles to this. So many things could go wrong in this. But the Mets did it. They win a battle over the Yankees. They outbid them. Yankees fans are pissed at Juan Soto. I get it, but reportedly they offered over $750 million to keep him, and he said no, which stings. Clearly, he was going for the biggest check, and I get it. I don't begrudge him for that. But I truly believe the Yankees should feel better today because they didn't sign this deal. This kills that team and their payroll. Another prediction, Juan Soto will play for at least 2 more teams by the time his career is over. Beyond the Mets. 2 more. He's not ending his career as a Met. No way. No how. I think he plays for 2 more teams beyond the Mets. And he'll play those 15 years. Maybe that 15th year he's a player coach but he's making all that money. He's not going to retire without that money. Scott Boras worked too damn hard to negotiate it to let him retire without getting that 5%. But it's crazy. For a guy that wasn't even the best player on his own team. That would be Aaron Judge, the captain, the multiple-time MVP. You're not the best player on your own team, and you take $765 million. That's on the Mets. That's on the Yankees for giving in. That's on teams like the Blue Jays, teams like the Dodgers that actually believe that they had a chance. Now, looking at the way teams pivot, the New York Yankees gave Max Fried, the former ace of the Braves, an 8-year, $218 million contract. It's the largest contract for a left-handed pitcher in Major League Baseball history. So if you look at the Yankees, Max Fried, Garrett Cole, and Carlos Rodon is their 1, 2, 3. They weren't spending enough on pitching, or if they did, they spent it on bad pitching over the last number of years. The Yankees still have an easier path than the Mets to get to the World Series because they don't have to play the Dodgers until the World Series. I don't mind that pivot. I think it's too much money for Max Fried. I think it's too many years. But he's a good pitcher. He can be injury prone, which always should concern organizations. He'll be 31 January, an 8-year deal, 11-10 last year, 3.25 ERA, 166 strikeouts. Good pitcher. No doubt about it. But if you look at it, nobody's going to have a whole lot of innings because that's just 174, 77 in 2023, 185, 162. So he's fairly consistent. But he's a good player right now. The Yankees believe that they can win, and they're not crazy because, like I said, the American League's wide open. Wide open. Toronto Blue Jays, who once believed that they were a threat to win the AL East and potentially get to the World Series themselves, they missed out on Juan Soto. like they were ever really there. And they had some comments with Ross Atkins, the GM, saying they were so happy and privileged to be a part of the discussion, so happy and privileged to be having a seat at the proverbial table, which sounds so weak and so lame, but that's Ross Atkins for you. However, they did make a good move, in my opinion, the other night. They traded first baseman Spencer Horwitz and a minor leaguer to the Cleveland Guardians for second baseman Jimenez, who is a multiple-time Gold Glove winner, 3 times, and is an upgrade and could be a replacement for Bo Bichette. You could argue he's the best second baseman in baseball, just when it comes to defending, and they need help defensively. So giving up Spencer Horwitz, who is a DH probably at his best, he then got flipped to the Pirates, so he'll have some opportunity to play there. But you add a good defense. It's not going to help their batting because he's not a great bat over history in his career. But that's a solid pivot. They need to do more. To me, they need another starting pitcher. And they're circulating around Corbin Burnes, who's a Cy Young winner who pitched with the Baltimore Orioles last year. And reportedly, the Orioles still have a lot of interest in Corbin Burnes. They want to bring him back. The Blue Jays are looking at, obviously, Max Fried is off the board. So I think we'll see some signings over the next couple of days. But looking at the big free agents, Christian Walker, first baseman, former with Arizona, good player. Pete Alonso, the polar bear, still out there, kind of a big name. Gleyber Torres, leaving the Yankees. Curious to see how much money he gets. Let's see. Third, obviously, Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros out there. I think he would fit with the Blue Jays, but he's 31. Still a good, productive player, but 31 years old, getting a little long in the tooth. Again, that scares me. Not outfielder. Anthony Santander, formerly of the Orioles. Teoscar Hernandez, the former Blue Jay, another guy that could be interesting. Starting pitchers, you have Corbin Burnes. You see Blake Snell off the board. Kikuchi off the board. Max Fried off the board. Nathan Eovaldi went back to Texas, 3 years, $75 million. You have Kyle Gibson, who's 37. Verlander, who's 42, who I think is going to retire. Sean Manaea, 33. Charlie Morton, probably retiring. Max Scherzer, who knows, could be small amount of money. So guys, but really beyond Corbin Burnes, you're not going to get a great starting pitcher beyond Alex Bregman. You're not going to get an elite third baseman unless you make a trade with a team, which can happen, which is what they did with Jimenez. But the Blue Jays also lost Jordan Romano to the Phillies. He signed a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. For that amount of money, I would have brought him back, but they lose him to Philadelphia, who needed help at the back end of their bullpen. So, baseball's definitely alive right now. Players are on the move. The winter meetings do spark activity. I don't think we're going to see the long list of good players available come March. It didn't work last year. Players have clearly figured out, no, why am I waiting this long? If there's a good deal in front of me, I'm going to sign it. I'm not going to be a Matt Chapman. I'm not going to be a Jordan Montgomery who has to choose Arizona at the last second and the year goes horribly and now I'm screwed financially. I'm not going to get that huge payday that I was expecting after winning a World Series with Texas. But teams are also shopping. I hear Texas is open for business. They're shopping players. So the St. Louis Cardinals shopping Nolan Arenado, shopping Paul Goldschmidt. They're breaking up their core. Seiya Suzuki, the right fielder for the Cubs, could be available in trade. So you have teams that normally like to spend or cutting payroll, trying to get a little younger. So still options out there for teams if they want to try to get better prior to the start of the season. But Juan Soto, good for you, man. $765 million. Crazy that somebody gave that to him. But multiple teams were going to do it. So normally the saying goes, well, it only takes one. Well, in this case, multiple teams were willing to do it. Crazy. Juan Soto's a Met. Congrats. The NHL still in full swing. Couple weeks before we get that Christmas break and people flip from the NHL to the World Junior Hockey Championships when it comes to eyeballs and it comes to people caring, really. But still lots of interesting things happening in the NHL. I mentioned off the top of the show the Maple Leafs beat New Jersey for the second time this season on Tuesday. A game that they had no business winning, but Anthony Stolarz willed them to a victory. He was fantastic. He's been their best player since the start of the season. No doubt about it. He's one of the best signings of the offseason. And they don't have to make this decision now because it's early December and we have so much year left. But he is goaltender number one. And to me, it's not a discussion. He was ready to go night one. Joseph Wall had some injury that we still don't know what it is, but seems every time there's a big game, he gets injured. Stolarz has been available. He's played really well, and I can't say he's had a really awful game so far. Every player in front of him on Tuesday sucked. And that includes Marner, that includes Matthews, who a shitty game from him gets overshadowed by, he scored an OT winner, where for 60-plus minutes of that game, he might as well have been a garden gnome because he's done nothing. He looks... I'll be honest, Austin Matthews looks out of shape since coming back from Germany and whatever back or whatever injury he had. He looks out of shape. Looks a little slow. He's, again, this fixation that him and Mitch Marner have to play together. Don't get it. Will never get it. I think it's stupid every time I see it that you have to have your two best players on the same line. It's backwards to me. But they do it. Toronto likes to do it. They can't break them up. God forbid one of them doesn't like it and starts crying about it. Ugh, good. Can't have that. But the key thing, they won the game. And they beat a good team. Check. And it's a one-off. I've said this beginning, they should win their division. They're going to win their division. And if Stolarz or Wall are playing at their max capacity, this team can contend for a Stanley Cup. Now, I think they need help in the bottom six of their lineup because they just can't score. The bottom six of their lineup, it's all a bunch of guys who chop at the puck and don't really bring a whole lot offensively. But you can trade for that. You can see what's available. Also, Bobby McMahon will return. Max Domi's been back. You'll get David Kampf back at some points. The bottom six will look better compared to what it's been. And that's a positive. They get Jake McCabe back tonight. But if you look until Christmas, the Maple Leafs have a stretch that they should capitalize on. Host the Ducks tonight. The Ducks got crushed last night against Ottawa. So they're on a back-to-back, fresh off a 5-1 loss. At Detroit on Saturday. Detroit in no man's land, 11-13-4. Same old Detroit bad team. Stevie Y is going to get fired at the end of the year. Buffalo's lost 8 in a row. 8 in a row. Same old Buffalo. 13 years without making the playoffs. They're going to tie the Jets. 14 straight, longest active streak in professional sports. Next Wednesday at Dallas. Tough game. But you get time off. It's not like it's a back-to-back, so you have one tough game in there. Friday night at Buffalo. We just went over them. 8 straight losses. Saturday the 21st, host the Islanders. Islanders can't score. 11-12-7. Below 500, they'll beat you 3-2 if they beat you, or they'll lose in the shootout. And then the 23rd, the last game before Christmas break, they host the Jets, and it's a 3 o'clock local start because it's that next gen for the children game. That's a pretty easy schedule. A lot of bad teams, a lot of teams under 500, a lot of teams that have no business being near a playoff spot, a lot of teams that won't have a playoff spot come to the end of the year. So, time to rack up points. Time to take advantage of an easier schedule. And this isn't a knock. I'm just pointing out the obvious. If you look at Florida, who's their only competitor in the Atlantic Division, Florida at Vancouver tonight, at Calgary Saturday, at Edmonton, at Minnesota, host St. Louis, who've been red hot, and then a back-to-back against Tampa Bay. If you think Toronto's schedule is tougher than that, you're the biggest homer I've met. Have a 5-6 point lead in the Atlantic Division by the time Christmas comes around. That's a successful start. Be the best team in your division. You might be the best team in the Eastern Conference by the time Christmas comes around. They absolutely can do it. Because of those games, I think they had 6 games before Christmas. They should win 5 of them. 4 at the worst. Anaheim trap game. What's a trap? They suck. They're a young team that don't really have an identity, and they got 2 defensemen in Trouba and Gudis that do the same thing on the same team. They want to take your head off, but it doesn't work. It's not gonna work. We'll see. Then Detroit. I feel bad for Detroit and Buffalo, to be completely honest with you. Steve Yzerman, great player. Built good teams in Tampa. But he's been in Detroit a long time, and he's never made the playoffs. Steve Yzerman and the Detroit Red Wings have 26 points after 28 games. That's second worst in the Eastern Conference. Columbus has more points. Ottawa does. Now, they're only 4 points out because nobody in the East is any good. Pittsburgh can't find it. Ottawa can't be consistent. The Islanders can't be consistent. Tampa can't be. Philly. Tampa, Philly, Islanders, Senators, Penguins are all separated by 2 points. It's a complete crapshoot. Anything can happen. And the Rangers only have one more point than Tampa, only have one more point than Philly. They haven't been good either. The Rangers, the only team they can beat is they beat Buffalo last night, who can't beat anybody. Now, other NHL news. But yeah, the Leafs will win tonight. 5-2 prediction. Prediction for you, just for some fun. I'm sure it'll be a thrilling game. But Buffalo just hired Lindy Ruff, so they're not going to fire. I'm thinking out loud here. They're not going to fire Lindy Ruff despite losing 8 in a row. They could fire Kevin Adams, but again, this would be another firing of a GM. They haven't made it's going to be 14 years they don't make the playoffs. Buffalo and the Jets, 2 New York teams, can't get it together. Sad. Thatcher Demko returned for the Vancouver Canucks on Tuesday. They lost to St. Louis. He was rusty. He admitted that after the game. His first game since game 2 of the first round last April. So a long layoff for him. They got a point. They lost in overtime. So they got Demko back on Tuesday. JT Miller will return for the Canucks tonight after being off for a prolonged period of time for burnout. So I dropped my pen. I like JT Miller. I think he's a really good competitor. Big part of the Canucks, no doubt about it. But he missed time because of burnout. Now, in regular society, I do think that this exists. People can take a vacation, but they're not getting paid millions of dollars a year to take that vacation. Technically, JT Miller doesn't work a real job. To me, being a professional athlete is not a real job. It's one that's more compensated than a real job, but it's your profession. Now, there's people that go off because they're actually hurt and they can't work or you're ill. Completely okay with that. Because if you work long enough and you get sick, you should be able to use that time however you want to use it. Or if you have sick days that you haven't used, some companies will allow their employees to use those. Now, but JT Miller didn't have a family member sick. He wasn't really sick himself. He just had burnout with the sport. And we're seeing players take time off for mental health and addiction issue, which is a completely different kettle of fish. Him missing time because of burnout, I'm not totally on board. I wouldn't like that excuse if I'm the organization. And in society now, you have to say you're okay with it. You have to say, oh, I'm sick, oh, I'm this, and you can't question. But, okay, you're burnt out. Season ended in May. Training camp didn't start until mid-September. You didn't play hockey for close to 4 months. You had time off. Why do you need more? This is your time to work. I always say this, you don't have to take that profession. Go be a plumber. Go do this. Go take a regular job. If you're burnt out with the one that you have. Oh, but I can go away from the team and still get paid for not doing my job? Who wouldn't take that option? Who doesn't love that idea? I don't get to show up. I don't get to do work because I'm burnt out and I'm just not feeling it. Oh, and my check's still going to clear? It's stupid. I don't agree with it. I don't know. I might be insensitive. JT Miller is a great player. I'm happy he's going to be back because the Canucks are a good team. A really good team. But if I'm a teammate of JT Miller's, I'm kind of upset. With the idea being, oh yeah, my knee's really bothering me. But I'm going tonight. Yeah, no, I can't. Oh, what's going on with you? Like, banged up? No, I'm just kind of burnt out. Excuse me? Yeah, I'm just not feeling it. Just not loving the game today. Interesting. Now, would players express that? I don't know. Maybe people are more sensitive to these things than me. Actually, I know they are. But I also think it's wrong because it's not a real excuse. It's not, doesn't pass the smell test for me. Now, they're playing Florida tonight. I'll be watching some of that game. So I want to see how he looks. I want to see how Thatcher Demko looks in his second start between the pipes. Actually, scratch that. Kevin Lankinen's getting the start tonight. But, I mean, the Canucks survived a player like that being away. Survived Demko, who was actually injured, being away. But they're also in the second wildcard spot, tied with Calgary. So it's not as if they've been a fantastic team. It's not as if they couldn't have used him. They're behind Edmonton. They're behind Los Angeles. They're behind Vegas. A lot of ground to make up in a tough division, a top-heavy division, but a tough division nonetheless. I'd be upset. And I want to talk to him about it because I wouldn't be happy with it. And maybe I'm the insensitive prick, which I'm fine being labeled that way. But I wouldn't be happy with a coworker, with a teammate, with that decision. If you're part of a team, you're part of the team. Suck it up. You got 4 months off because you couldn't win a Stanley Cup last year. Play out the season, then you're going to get another 4 months off. Because you're probably not going to win one again with that type of attitude and that type of buy-in. But a fun night of games. Vegas in Winnipeg tonight. Good battle. Two tightly contested teams. Winnipeg dominated Boston on Tuesday, winning 8-1. Became a physical affair, a number of fights, couple cheeky hits. Vegas has been off since the weekend, so they get back on the ice tonight. Edmonton Oilers in Minnesota playing the Red Hot Wild. Minnesota 19-5-4 on the season. Kirill Kaprizov continues to soar. He's second in the NHL in scoring behind only Nathan MacKinnon. MacKinnon with 46 points. He had 5 points on Tuesday. Him and Mikko Rantanen. Mikko Rantanen is fourth in the NHL in scoring. He's got 42 points. MacKinnon with 46. They're both incredible. Rantanen, 18 goals, tied with Kaprizov. So while Colorado, their goaltending, they've completely changed. Georgiev is now in San Jose. They get Mackenzie Blackwood. They trade Annunen to Nashville, and they pick up Scott Wedgwood as their new backup goaltender. So in the course of 3 weeks, they get 2 brand new goaltenders on their team. And their assistant general manager, Chris McFarland, was very real when he was asked by the media, what's your expectations of this new tandem? He said, quite simple, just stop the fucking puck. Frustration with Colorado with Georgiev and his season and just the way that team was defending and not getting a save at a critical time. Colorado can be dangerous. McKinnon is as good as it gets. Mikko Rantanen is a pending unrestricted free agent. He's on course for a career year. Doesn't have a contract yet. He could leave Colorado for all we know. He was on a discounted contract. He's one of the best wingers in the league. Free agency's going to come. Mitch Marner's going to get a big deal. Mikko Rantanen's going to get a bigger one because Mikko Rantanen's a better player. Period. Colorado, they're such a fun team to watch, but they couldn't get. I want to see if they can get a save moving forward. They host Utah tonight. Florida and Vancouver said Boston looking to bounce back in Seattle against the Kraken. But, Capitals continue to win without Ovechkin. Great story there for that group. Montreal has been better of late. Patrick Laine, 3 goals in 4 games, 4 points in 4 games, point per game so far for him. Looks rejuvenated, looks excited to be at the rink playing in front of passionate fans at Centre Bell. So some good thing happening there. Matvei Michkov, I can't go a show without talking about him. My guy, rookie, 27 points in 27 games, point per game. Oh, he's great. And he was a healthy scratch by Torts in there for a couple games. Come on, Torts. Konechny's awesome. Konechny's their best player right now. Michkov's going to be the best player on this team very soon. Won't take them long. They also have Jet Lachenko in their system, who's going to be playing for Team Canada at the World Juniors. Emil Andrade has looked fine in his limited time, 5 points in 19 games this year. Swedish defenseman who won Best Defenseman at the 2021 World Junior Hockey Championships. Speaking of the World Juniors, the training camp is underway. A tryout, if you will. They played the U Sports All-Stars today. Carson Repkov, who's a returning player, had a hat trick in the game. Porter Martone, who's a underager who was eligible for the draft in 2025, had a goal in the game today in the victory for Team Canada. It's interesting because Easton Cowan isn't playing yet because he got wrecked in his last OHL game against the Oshawa Generals. So he's sitting out for precautionary reasons. Bennett Seneca was added to the tournament. He was taken 3rd overall by the Anaheim Ducks in this past year's draft. Canada will be without Tija Ginla, who had hip surgery, so he's unavailable. So it's kind of been adding players as they go, finding different pieces to fit in. I actually believe this team is going to be very talented, very interesting team. They do have some returning players, Braden Yeager, who's now a member of the Winnipeg Jets. Rekoff, as I just said, Tanner Molendyke, who's a high pick of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who's a stud. I think he'll be one of the better players. Sam Dickinson, Radek Bonk on the back end. So they have some good returning players. But you see guys like Porter Mertone up front who could be drafted. Gavin McKenna, who's only eligible in 2026, but is tearing the CHL by storm. And I think he's going to make the team as an underager. So a lot of talent on the team, a good mix. I still think the United States, we're going to talk more about the tournament as we get closer. I think the United States is a really good team. The United States, who won it last year, will be elite. Sweden's got 9 players returning, and they won silver. But this tournament in Ottawa, the last time it was in Ottawa, was obviously the Jordan Eberle tournament, the can you believe it moment for Team Canada, Gord Miller on that great call. In a group with Finland, in a group with the United States this year. They'll play the United States on New Year's Eve. The tradition is back. Happy for that. But I love the World Junior. We're going to break down the tournament. We're going to talk about everything going. That'll probably be December 23rd. Around then, we'll do a full tournament preview. Tournament starts on the 26th. So we'll have a lot to chop up between now and then when it comes to the World Juniors. But Easton Cowan, the Maple Leaf prospect, will play. He's just not on the ice yet. He's not doing anything physical yet. Canada will have one more game against the U Sports All-Stars tomorrow afternoon, and then they will make cuts. And they will basically decide their team tomorrow. They'll have a week to prep, and then they have 3 pre-tournament games. And those are, find those for you right here. Because I believe Slovakia and Germany are playing in Moncton. It might be this weekend, actually. So Canada, finding pre-tournament games here. Let's see. 19 to 23rd, 11 games will be played. 10 teams will be competing. Canada will open its exhibition schedule with a pair of games at TD Place in Ottawa, taking on Switzerland on December 19th and Sweden on December 21st, before facing Czechia at the Canadian Tire Center on December 23rd. But yes, there is a pre-tournament game in Moncton for the World Juniors this weekend, which I did not know until this week. But I want to find that. I believe it's Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon in Moncton. You might not know some of the players, but you get to go out and see it. Which, yeah, I would have bought tickets because I would have went for sure. Because I don't care who's playing. I just want to watch hockey. But harder to find here. They really want to make it difficult on me trying to get you guys information. Let's see. But yeah, pre-tournament on Sunday in Moncton, I think. I don't want to tell you guys wrong information, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. Why Moncton? I don't know, but I happy to see that because it's, yeah, but there's games in Cornwall, Kingston, and yeah, Moncton. on the 14th. Or the 15th, which is Sunday. So yes, the pre-tournament game in Moncton on Sunday. All right, let's go to the NFL. Great week 15 in the NFL this week. What a week. Just to name a few of the games. Green Bay, Seattle. Chiefs, Browns. Buccaneers, Chargers. Steelers, Eagles. Colts, Broncos. Dolphins, Texans. Bills, Lions. Rams, 49ers, which takes place tonight on Thursday Night Football. Before we get to tonight's game, we got some games with huge stakes. In the AFC, if the Miami Dolphins lose to the Houston Texans, their season is over, basically. They can punt. It's unlikely they make the playoffs now, but they lose this game, they're screwed. They're not going anywhere. They'll be golfing in 3 weeks. Texans are coming off a bye. Miami's coming off a game that they should have lost to the New York Jets, but they won it. Houston has looked very vulnerable. They play in a bad division, but the Colts are still lurking and could potentially be a threat. No significant injuries for either team. Miami's pretty healthy all in all. Tua's been playing fantastic, playing better football than CJ Stroud, quite frankly. It's in a dome, so weather shouldn't be a huge factor for the Dolphins. But for the Dolphins, here's what they want this weekend. And this is going to sound weird, but just stay with me for a second. The Dolphins are 6-7. The Colts are also 6-7. The Colts beat the Dolphins this year, so they hold a tiebreaker over them if they were both to finish with the same record. But the Broncos are 8-5. Dolphins need to win they have 4 games left. They need to win them all and finish 10-7. The Broncos host the Colts this weekend. Then they go at the Chargers next Thursday, at Cincinnati, and close out hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Tough schedule. The Colts at Broncos, toughest game in their schedule, host the Titans, at the Giants, host the Jags. All brutal teams. So I look at it and go, if the Colts beat the Broncos, the Colts are going to win out. And the Colts are going to have a 10-7 record. The Dolphins can hope to win out. Dolphins at Houston, host San Francisco, at the Browns, at the Jets. No locks in there. No gimmies. What I think the Dolphins should want is for the Denver Broncos to win the game this weekend. Then you can't finish with a tie with the Colts because I believe the Colts will win out. So they need to win out and then hope that the Broncos lose another game. That the Broncos lose to the Chiefs or the Broncos lose to Cincinnati, who will be playing for something. Unlikely, but these games are big. Colts at the Broncos this upcoming weekend. And to find that line for you all, start the week, it was a 5.5 point spread. It's now 3.5 in favor of the home team, the Denver Broncos. 5.5 was too many. This is more reasonable. But the Broncos are a good team. Both these teams coming off of a bye week. Both these teams knowing how important this game is. The AFC playoff teams can basically be a wrap this weekend if the Broncos win and if the Dolphins lose. Then to me, it's simple. The Chargers getting in. Ravens, despite their struggles, getting in. And the Denver Broncos also will get in. So those 7 playoff teams will become quite obvious to me. If that goes down that way this weekend, which it could, but it's interesting and some interesting lines. Because you also have, let's look at this. The line, Dolphins are a 2.5-point dog on the road. And you got the Chargers, 3-point favorite at home against Tampa Bay. Important game for both teams. Bigger game for Tampa Bay, who currently occupy the first slot in the NFC South because the Falcons can't get their act together. But then you get some heavyweight matchups. The 5 o'clock slate is elite. 5 o'clock games include Colts-Broncos. Good game. Patriots-Cardinals. Not a great game, but it's an important game. Buccaneers-Chargers. Steelers at Philadelphia. And the Bills at Detroit. That's the 5 o'clock slate. Have your clicker ready. Be ready to switch channels, because if you're only watching one game, you're doing it wrong. Bills-Lions. Heavyweight matchup in Detroit. Lions have been off since Thanksgiving. Sitting, waiting for the Bills, who are coming off a loss to the Los Angeles Rams. This game is so hard to pick. Because I had the Bills minus 2.5 last week, and they screwed me. And Josh Allen was phenomenal, and he had 6 total touchdowns and all that good stuff. But it wasn't enough because that defense was dreadful. Now, Jared Goff can tear up a defense. I'm Amon-Ra St. Brown, Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. But they held on to beat the Packers, walk-off field goal. They're 12-1. They've been the best team in the NFC all year long. Can they keep it going? A 2.5-point home favorite. I think the Bills are as dangerous as they ever have been. They have their best chance to get to a Super Bowl because these other good teams around them are vulnerable and they aren't at their apex. And Josh Allen's playing better than he ever has, quite frankly. So they have those, but you look at that defense, and Stafford's fantastic, and Stafford's going to be a Hall of Famer, and Puka Nacua is incredible. But they couldn't get a stop last week. They couldn't do anything against the Los Angeles Rams. Both defenses are wounded. The Detroit Lions defense has injuries all over it, including Aiden Hutchinson, who they lost in Week 5. One of the best defensive players in the league. Heavyweight matchup. It tells you a lot about Buffalo if they can win this game, bounce back. Because they would have wins over Detroit, the best team in the NFC, and the Chiefs, the best team in the AFC. they'd have that on their resume going into the playoffs. I think the Bills are going to finish with the second seed in the AFC because I think the Steelers' schedule is too tough and they're going to have some losses coming up. So I think the Bills will face the seventh team, probably the Broncos, in the first round of the playoffs. Not an easy game, but also one that you'd prefer. You'd love the bye, but you lose again. Kansas City's lost once. They've won 8 games by 1 score. Incredible. You also have in there Steelers, Eagles in Philadelphia. Eagles coming off surviving a game against the Panthers. A game that they definitely could have lost. After the game, A.J. Brown bitching about his targets. Their passing game not good enough. Dissension in the locker room despite the fact that they are having a phenomenal, they're 11-2. Having a phenomenal year. Eagles are really good. They're deep. Saquon Barkley's the best running back in the NFL. They have one of the best offensive lines. Jalen Hurts is not a great, I think he's a good quarterback. I don't know how good the team would be better if they had an elite. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. He hasn't been elite since that Super Bowl game, quite frankly. But he's good enough. And when Saquon's going and you have Goddard and you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and the tush push that works on every play, it's effective. And they're a dangerous team. Pittsburgh is going to be without George Pickens for the second straight week. But they made it work without him against Cleveland. I like Calvin Austin in the slot. I like Pat Freiermuth. He can make plays. They can run the football with Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren. Pittsburgh's been one of the more surprising teams in the entire NFL. 10-3, 18 straight winning seasons as an organization. Russell Wilson, 2 interceptions, was sacked a couple times. But they made it work. He threw a touchdown pass to Freiermuth. He threw a touchdown pass to Van Jefferson. But this is the Steelers to finish their year. At Eagles, at Ravens, host the Chiefs on Christmas, host the Bengals. That's murderer's row. It doesn't get a whole lot tougher than that. They have a 2-game lead on the Ravens. I'm not sure they can hold on to it. Ravens at Giants, home Steelers, at Texans on Christmas, host the Browns. 2 gimme wins in there. 2 tough games, but 2 gimme wins. I like the Steelers. I think personally they're the 3rd best team in the AFC. Behind Kansas City and behind Buffalo. I do think they're better than Baltimore, top to bottom. Better coached. Better defense, certainly. Not a better quarterback, but Lamar's made some stupid decisions this year. The Steelers beat the Ravens a number of weeks ago. We'll see what happens in the rematch. Should be fun. We got a number of Chiefs-Browns to me is interesting. Jameis Winston, you never know. Also, that line's been bet down because it was 6.5 to start the week, and it's now 4.5, which makes more sense because the Chiefs have never been covering spreads. They never do. They didn't against the Chargers. Chargers covered 3.5, 4.5 at Cleveland. My cross-offs, I've been very forthright. I'm not betting the Patriots anymore, and I really like the Patriots this weekend, and I like them plus 6.5 at Arizona. I think they can win that game, personally. And I'm not doing it because I hate betting the Patriots because they screw me every time. But if you're not me and that's not a thing I would recommend betting the Patriots this weekend at Arizona. It's not going to be one of my 3 same game parlay picks that'll come out Sunday morning, but I like that one. Packers Seahawks, fun game. Seahawks, 2.5 home dog on Sunday Night Football. Tough to play in Seattle. New York Giants getting 16.5 points against Baltimore this weekend. 16.5. How about the Carolina Panthers? For the first time in over 30 games, they are a favorite. They are a 2.5 point favorite against the Dallas Cowboys this weekend in Charlotte. That's right, they're the favorite. I wish they were an underdog because that'd be an easy pick for me, but they're the favorite. I hate that. Tennessee home dog against Cincinnati. Saints home dog against Washington. And a surprising one to me that this team tonight is not a home underdog. The San Francisco 49ers are home to the Rams tonight. Thursday Night Football. And they are a 3-point favorite as of now on FanDuel Sportsbook. Sounds like Nick Bosa is going to play, but he's really injured. Isaac Guerrero will try to play, but really banged up. No Christian McCaffrey, no Brandon Ayuk, wounded Fred Warner. Yes, they just crushed the Bears, but everybody does. The Bears suck. If San Francisco loses this game tonight, their chances of making the playoffs are less than 1%. So they need to win this game, but it's also an important game for the Rams to win. Because you have Seahawks 8-5, Rams 7-6, Arizona 6-7, San Francisco 6-7. Excuse me, and you have Seattle hosting Green Bay in a tough game this weekend. I don't get it. The Rams, I'm going with, yes, San Francisco seems to always beat the Rams in the regular season. And the Rams beat San Francisco in the playoffs recently. But I'm taking the Rams +3 because I trust Stafford. Nakua is playing. Cooper Kupp is playing. Kyron Williams is playing on that offense. Their defense just had a bad week. I think they'll want to respond. Brock Purdy's going to have to throw the ball, so there's going to be a lot of expectations to throw. Jared Verse, that pass rush, getting after him. I like the Rams tonight +3. I like the Rams +3 to win the game outright at San Francisco. But it surprised me that they're a 3-point home favorite. Despite all their injuries and things like that. That's just interesting line to me. But I like the Rams. Great to be back. A lot of stuff to talk about today. Fun show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great weekend. I'll be back on Monday to recap it all and get into everything. Until then, take care, stay healthy. I'm your host, Noah Warren, and this is the Live and Learn podcast.